All right, guys. I hate to be a stickler on this Usyk Verhoeven fight, but I'm looking at a lot of boxing channels just because we see stuff. Hearing a lot of boxers, sitting champions sitting today that don't even know the history of the sport that they're practicing in. And it's rather ridiculous. Most of you are not going to know. Well, let's talk about the fight first. If somebody hadn't finagled the sound on the fight, we watched it as it happened. We went back and watched it again on the thing, and we couldn't hear too much or didn't notice too much. But if somebody hadn't AI'd it, that bell rang, and then the referee stepped in to stop the fight. So he should have been next to powerless to. He should have been powerless. He doesn't have the right to stop a fight. That would be a ring doctor or an official decision to make, other than the referee. If I'm not 100% correct on this, somebody let me know. But after that bell rings, according to everything I know, the referee can't just go stop the fight on his own behalf after the bell rings. He can't create a stoppage. He can during the round, but this was just crazy, and he should have heard the bell ring. Somebody should have said something. We've had finagling in boxing, such as the Liston Ali 2 fight, or maybe it was, I think it was the second fight, where people were telling Jersey Joe Walcott, a former world heavyweight champion who was officiating that fight, sports announcers that didn't like Liston basically threw the count on that fight. And in other words, the referee wasn't up to the count, and Larry Merchant, and other people in boxing today, and a lot whom have passed on, sports writers were out there dictating to Jersey Joe Walcott how much time had passed when the count began in that Liston Ali 2 fight. So there's been finagling all along. It was a long count with Dempsey versus, I can't think of the other guy's name. He was a good heavyweight champion, former Marine Corps veteran, and I can't think of his name right now. And then the other thing, unless it was AI finagled, which I don't understand, and I wish somebody would let me know down in the comment section if you do understand, is the points registry, rounds won and rounds lost, and the points for the individual contestants in each round was written on World Boxing Association scorecards, not World Boxing Council scorecards. So it seems to me they're just doing whatever they want to do. Now, let me tell you where it all began. And we've always had problems in boxing, but the reality of where all this really began in boxing, it goes back many years. And let me tell you the story here, and I'm strictly speaking in the heavyweight division, of course, right now. We had what was called the National Boxing Association, NBA, back in the day. The last NBA champion was Floyd Patterson. Floyd Patterson, while he was champion, the organization was converted and changed to combat corruption that the NBA was having, National Boxing Association was having, turned into a new organization, and it was called the National Boxing Association, the WBA. Boy, it's amazing when you live history what you can recall. But you look on these new boxing channels, I've watched a guy who's 81 years old trying to describe what happened but has no history behind him, can't remember the past, and probably doesn't know before the 1950s or 60s anything about boxing that he didn't see. So I'm just trying to give a more well-rounded perspective here. No offense to anybody, I just think we're seriously lacking in boxing knowledge, and that's keeping us from getting things cleaned up. So anyway, the National Boxing Association was turned into, with a lot of new people, the World Boxing Association, the WBA. And shortly thereafter, I believe within 1 to 2 years, the World Boxing Council was created, again, to combat corruption, and it was created by a Mexican family in Mexico City to combat corruption. Isn't that amazing? So when the World Boxing Council was created, what they chose to do was give all of the World Boxing Association champions, and it was just one champion, that would have been your champion, and every division was a WBA champion. They ended up giving the WBC belt to every champion in every weight class from the heavyweight on down. And when it was created, by the time it was created, Sonny Liston had already beat Floyd Patterson, and Sonny Liston was the first World Boxing Council heavyweight champion because the belt was given to him. So then you get up into the Ali era, and you got heavyweight boxing always has, does today, and will tomorrow. The heavyweight division dictates boxing. So if the precedent's set in the heavyweight division, it trickles on down to lower weight classes. And sometimes there's some trickle up, but it's very rare. Ali gets stripped of the titles, both the WBA and the WBC, and I believe Ali was stripped of the WBC first, but I'm not positive on that. So I don't know why he would have been worried at all, but Ali never really cared for the WBC belt at any rate. Nobody did. Isn't that hard to fathom today? Didn't nobody give a crap about a belt that was handed out and just given to all the champions. So when Ali was stripped, and eventually he was stripped by the WBA and the WBC, I may be wrong in the order of who stripped him first, because of longevity of time, the title was vacated because they weren't letting Ali fight. So you had a fracture at that moment in the heavyweight division. So they held a tournament, and Ernie Terrell won the WBA belt, and Joe Frazier won a tournament on the other side and got the, actually there wasn't a WBA tournament. They took the number 1 and number 2, or the number 1 and 3 ranked contenders at the time that were a full go, and they fought, and then you had your WBA guy. Then they had 4 guys on the WBC side that they let compete for that belt, and Joe Frazier won it. And Joe Frazier eventually had both belts, as you well know, and everything was brought back together. But for a couple of years there, a couple of 3 years there, I don't remember perfectly, we had a split. And it was because of the vacated belt, and or one belt Ali got stripped, and the other organization vacated him because he couldn't fight. They wouldn't let him fight, the government. Couldn't get a license to fight. So, fast forward, Frazier unified the deal back up. Nobody was not, even though we knew Frazier was a better fighter than Terrell or whoever on the WBA side, still the WBA belt was the coveted belt. It was the belt you'd want to go after. It was the real belt, and well, as real as anything can be in boxing. So the belts are together. Then you have George Foreman and his miraculous run there, and then the miraculous dethroning of him by Muhammad Ali. And Muhammad Ali's has a few fights, and Rocky's fixing to go ballistic at the front door, our German Shepherd. So Ali, through finagling, I'm not trying, you know what, I don't care. This was terrible. This was terrible. The WBA knew it was terrible too. The WBC was just, we'll do anything. If the money's right, we'll do it. And here's what happened. Muhammad Ali, the sitting world heavyweight champion, and this is where this Ali Spinks championship fight goes, you could pluck it up and do a curvatured line right up to the fight between Usyk and Verhoeven last night. And here's the wicked rules that got broke. Ali, instead of defending the belt against the WBA, had a mandatory time limit on theirs. The WBA and the WBC had mandatory time limits. The WBA, there was never a return go. That meant if somebody, if the champion beat you, he beat you. That was it. Then you'd fight the next guy in line, and so on and so forth. If the next guy was not available, because maybe he had fought on the same card or whatever, maybe you would go to a lower down in the ranking. And but Ali broke a cardinal rule and defended the belt. He had won it from George Foreman, then he didn't want to fight nobody. He had that, then a Kenny Norton fight, a hard-fought Ernie Shavers fight. And then he realized he was getting old, and so he was. Ali became the king of the avoiding other fighters. Something that people get so upset today about, Ali created, and that was just, hey, I'll just avoid everybody and hang on to my championship. So Ali took a fight with a guy that had just previously had won I believe it was the 76 Olympic gold medal in heavyweight or light, I believe it was heavyweight division. It might have been light heavyweight division. But the Olympic gold medalist, Leon Spinks. Leon Spinks had 6 fights. Nowhere near damn ready to do anything like that. But many of us in boxing, we knew at the time. You know, everybody was raising hell back then at the time. All this has been glossed over because Ali got sick, and but Ali was playing boxing games and created a lot of this hell that we're going through today. And he's being praised a lot of times when he should not be. I'm just telling a fundamental fact there. So he fights Leon Spinks, and he did just enough not to get his butt planted on the canvas, and acted like, oh, well, he was, you know, all this slowing down, which he was slowing down. But it's almost as if you go back and you look at those 2 fights, Ali did a great job, in my opinion, and most people's opinion at the time, and when I say most, I mean most people's opinion at the time that knew about boxing or were in it, we all knew, he threw that belt so he could fight for it again and beat this kid up and get it for the 3rd time. He was after some sort of a record. He had won it back twice, but see, Floyd Patterson had already done that. He couldn't be the youngest one or hold it the longest or anything of that nature. He couldn't go undefeated. The record that he could break would be getting that thing 3 times. And he did it. That fight, he looked like he was 45 years old, and it showed. And here's where it gets right to the point. When Spinks won that fight, Spinks had a WBA mandatory that he would have to fight the next guy in line. And Spinks chose not to do it. He went after the money. You know, you can't fault him for that. He knew he was going to get his tail whooped. If he would have fought the next guy, he would have got beat by anybody in the division, anybody in the top 10 at the time. Spinks would have got beat by any of them. He just didn't have the experience. Not taking nothing away from him, but come on, 6 fights. 6 pro fights. So, what Leon Spinks did, he knew that the Ali fight would be a bigger draw, so he just like, well, yeah, I'll give Ali a rematch. And Ali got in there and, of course, beat him. And Ali got the 3-time record. Nobody had ever done that up to that point. And Spinks got a boatload of money. But the WBA was like, no, we don't operate like that. We don't do business like that. So they fought for the WBC belt. So Leon Spinks was stripped of the WBA belt, and I do not know exactly how this came to be, but on the WBC side, there was not a, and I just can't remember this. So after Ali beat him, the WBA said, since Spinks did not fight the next guy up in the WBA, they turned around and gave the belt back to Muhammad Ali. So you got Muhammad Ali again holding so that's when you had the finagling coming in with the WBA. The so Ali had the WBA belt and the WBC belt. And what ended up happening, the big fracture came. So I know I went around the ballpark. It's hard for me to think back to remember. But when I get my head on it, I want to let you know because this history is good to know. The WBA and the WBC was telling Ali, you got to fight. And Muhammad Ali sat around for a long time and would not fight. So the WBC stripped Ali due to the time frame there. And Larry Holmes fought, oh my gosh, I got the guy right, Kenny Norton, for that belt. You had the number 1 and the number 2 guy up against each other, so you had Larry Holmes and Kenny Norton, and Larry Holmes beat Kenny Norton, and so you had Larry Holmes holding the WBC belt. So Ali sat there for a year and a half, almost maybe 2 years, with the WBA belt and wouldn't give it back. They were demanding, hey, you need to retire, you need to do something. And so what ended up happening was the WBA wrote a check to Muhammad Ali for $250,000 and had to buy Ali to go away. Had to buy a man that couldn't fight no more to go away. And Ali took the $250,000. Yeah, Ali was terrible for boxing. Terrible. So we had to fracture because the WBA put up a really big hoopla tournament, and Big John Tate won that tournament. And nobody was looking at Larry Holmes like he was a real champion back then, other than, you got fans and things. The real champion that everybody was looking at until I believe it was March of 1980 was Big John Tate. He was the champion. And then there was the other guy. And meanwhile, and during all this time, Big John Tate had won the WBA thing where you had to win the 2 fights to get it out of the 4 guys. And it might have been 6 guys to get down to the 4. I don't know if I can remember correctly right now. But at any rate, not going on through, continuing on through the history, Ali fractured this thing. He fractured it twice for selfish ass reasons. He fractured heavyweight boxing 2 times, and everybody sits back and is like, oh, he's the one guy you can't say nothing about. But he helped fracture it. Meanwhile, when the WBC had not been around all that long, maybe 10, 12 years, and Don King got in up under with that WBC organization, Suleiman's daddy, and it just corrupted it with money. And nobody was, the FBI couldn't go in and do anything. It was a Mexican organization. And that's all it is to this day. A Mexican organization that is owned, not ran, not as a association or a corporation. It is a family-run Mexican business. That's what the WBC is. And so no wonder that the WBC would go ahead and sanction a fight that it should not have sanctioned by its own rules and laws last night for the Usyk-Verhoeven fight. And there's no way in hell they were going to let that belt off of Usyk. First chance that guy got, that referee got, somebody had said something to him. It might have been after that first knockdown. I don't know what it was, but somebody probably had told him, don't let this damn belt change. If Usyk gets on him any, and maybe even Usyk was told, if you hey, go in there and pound him, they're going to stop the fight. Because he wasn't winning, and those scorecards were a drastic corruption too. And nobody wants to talk about all this. Teddy Atlas even, he didn't want to get that deep in with this thing. He put a little 3-minute video up. He wasn't wanting, he wouldn't want to touch it with a flagpole. And we will touch it. We don't need the WBC around here for nothing. As a matter of fact, we don't need the WBA up in around here for nothing. We got plans, and these plans aren't kissing boxing organizations' asses. Trust me on that. If Joe is as good as I think he is, and as good as he will be as he develops into a man, which is coming sooner every day, we ain't gonna need to do it. I just tell him, go in there and beat the shit out of everybody. The opportunity will have to come forward eventually. But this mess in boxing is not going to stop with Saudi Arabia and Dana White and that corporation working in conjunction, as they are, hand in hand, fitting like a glove, with the WBC. And we should be demanding, as boxing fans, aficionados, whatever, that these other boxing organizations, that they have no more a part in this. I would be livid if I ran the WBA. There would be a lawsuit incoming this week to the WBC for using letterhead or stationery or anything of my organization if I was a WBA against the WBC. The WBC is the most corrupt, irrespective of anything you hear, is the most corrupt boxing entity that there has ever been. And they have walked through this thing 100% unaccountable. I've seen these other organizations get investigated, get audited, a whole lot of things go on. Very funny. There is a 2-hour program where it shows the investigation going into the IBF, the International Boxing Federation of all boxing organizations, going through a major thing with Don King, where Don King was paying them to rank his guys up further in the rankings, and it's just a farce. And I'll tell you something else is a farce too, that a young fighter has to pay $55,000 a year to be ranked by a boxing organization. You all need to know that too. If you don't pay the WBC to be included with the WBC, these exorbitant yearly fees, you don't get in their rankings. Same thing with all the boxing organizations, and this mess just needs to stop. And bringing Saudi Arabians in, bringing big corporation in, is only going to bring more corruption. It's like we've went from mafia corruption to corporation corruption. Mafia corruption to Don King corruption, street hood corruption to corporation corruption. And we got to get rid of it. So anyway, that's how the Leon Spinks fight And that return go that the WBC allowed, you could just draw a line up to the Verhoeven Usyk fight last night. Doing the same shit since they did and started in 1978. And the crap's still going on, and it's getting worse, and it's getting more in your face with it. And Suleiman, all the Turk has to do is tell Suleiman, hey, you do this, you do that, and Suleiman's going to cave and do it. He's no friend of a boxer. No friend of a boxer. They do these little events. They give some things away. The WBA gives some things away. WBA, BO, the IBF does too. They do some things down here in South America. I see 4 times a year down here. The organizations, each organization, one at a time, will come through and they'll give away 20 pairs of boxing gloves, 10 heavy bags, and act like that they've done the world for everybody. And we got to get past that and get beyond that. So that's my big rant. But take it to the bank, because it's the way it is. And this is just terrible what's going on with boxing. And we do hate it so. We do hate it so.